realize that all of the central banks are buying gold and bringing it home, in one way or the other, it benefits all of them. So look, it's a Hail Mary pass, but either that or inflate or default or go back to option three and just make everyone have no reason to hold our currency, to hold our treasuries and dump it and watch what happens. Either way, you're going to get to the same point. If you don't take care of this problem that is growing, either you inflate, you default, or option three and four, find a villain, or just revalue gold. And I think they can do that. It's the least painful of all of the options. And if that's what they're willing to pay, anyone that's willing to sell us their gold, then that is what the price is.
Imagine a world where every $4,000 increase in gold's price translates to $1 trillion added to the US Treasury's balance. This is no hypothetical. Central banks worldwide are quietly buying up gold, with some like China potentially holding 5 times more than the US at over 40,000 metric tons. Why? Because as the US struggles with mounting debt, gold could be the answer to balance the books, or, in Schectman's words, the least painful option. He explains how a massive revaluation of gold could stabilize America's financial system, making it irresistible for central banks, and a game-changing move for the US economy.
And we've had the head of the Dutch National Bank talk about this for quite some time. And ironically, in fact, you can't make it up, Michelle, gold is held on central bank balance sheets and accounts called the gold revaluation account. And, the head of the Dutch National Bank says, look, we got all this money in the revaluation account that we currently cannot offset against our liabilities, but why don't we revalue the price of gold and do just that? Because in Europe, gold is on everyone's balance sheet at $35 an ounce. In the US, it's $42.22. I would guess they valued it last and did some legal declaration sometime in the early 70s, right after they set it free from its $35 an ounce price. But that is what it is on the books of the US government. And, it makes a lot of sense, actually. And we saw that with Roosevelt over my shoulder there. That's what he did. He confiscated gold. He revalued it and by 40% by depreciating the dollar. And it takes on a greater significance in my mind when we see Cynthia Lummis, the senator from Oklahoma or from Wyoming, who got up on stage at the Bitcoin conference just a couple months ago in Tennessee, where Trump said, yeah, I want to build a Bitcoin strategic account. And she said, yeah, I want to float a bill that revalues the gold that the Fed is holding on behalf of the Treasury to a level high enough to buy Bitcoin for this account. And, in a world where, and by the way, Luke Gromen is one of the smartest human beings on the planet. I try and follow everything that he says, and I agree with him. But in a world where Bitcoin, and, Michael Saylor, I think I've watched that interview you did with him. He'd be the first one to tell you it goes to 150,000 or 200,000 or a million, right? So why can Bitcoin go to 150,000 but gold can't? Why do we think that's okay and the other isn't? And I would just simply say, you put gold at $150,000 an ounce, as crazy as that sounds, your balance sheet now is pristine, goes from putrid to pristine like that. And who's to say we couldn't do it? We'll just tell every country on the planet, send us your gold, we'll buy it. We'll pay $150,000 an ounce for it. That is what it is. I mean, in China right now, silver's $4 an ounce higher than it is in the West. That is what it is if you can deliver it there. My point is, if they did that, and they did that, it would behoove who? Well, all the central banks. They're the ones buying it all. And if it is indeed going to be part of a new system, and we're trying to put all of these systems together, a common system, as we were talking about, wouldn't it benefit the common system if it's all going to be tied to gold and blockchain? Then it would benefit everyone. And now you not only have a balance sheet where all of your money is not going to exponentially increasing interest payments, but instead to maybe trying to pay down the debt. Yes, it creates inflation, but it will never come back down at that point. That's why guys like Jim Sinclair, God rest his soul, always said, gold will go to a level no one thinks possible, and it will be pegged to a new system and never come down. I mean, I think that is what will happen. I think it's too hard to ignore. Richard Russell always said, inflate or default, that's all the Fed can do. For the last 4 years, I said, find a villain. Xi Jinping and Putin and OPEC, they did it to us. And they incentivizing them to dump the dollar as the reserve currency. We've talked about what that looks like. But how about option 4? Just simply revalue the gold holdings if they really are there, the 8,330 metric tons that haven't been audited forever, and revalue it to a level that then makes our balance sheet balanced with, the liabilities with our now higher asset level, and it's a different game. Could that happen? I think if Trump beats him to the punch, if Trump were elected and they beat him to the punch, beat the West, the East or the South rather, the BRICS to the punch of currency revaluation and tying it to gold, that is how it would give us, I think, an advantage. It would give us, it would neutralize perhaps much of the world's desire to move away if indeed we showed, here's the new deal. We realize we've made a mistake. We realize we've kind of squandered the good graces of our foreign creditors, and we're going to make up for that by going this way because we've gone too far down the line to really pay it off. So we're going to revalue gold. We're going to honor that price. We're going to peg it to a new system, and it will be transparent for everyone to see. These transgressions will never happen again. Would it work? Yeah, I think it would forestall a lot of the ugliness that could happen as a result of the BRICS doing this first.
So beat them to the punch. If you can't beat them, join them, but do it first. You're saying that that's also on the table.
Well, remember, we've talked about the first interview I did with you, and you threw that at me like a curveball, and I somehow fortunately said, well, remember the report that just came out, and it came out right around the time we did that interview in January 2 years ago, the IMF saying gold as an international reserve currency, a barbarous relic no more. You can make a link to that report on this video just by Googling IMF and typing that report name in. And then earlier this year, Kristalina Georgieva, their head, said any CBDC not pegged to something is fiat. Well, why not use the only other tier one reserve asset? But in order to do it to a level sufficient, and keep in mind, when the Swiss had gold backing of their currency, they did it at 40%. That gives monetary fluidity. That gives you the ability to maneuver on a monetary level by having that 60% of it not being backed by 60%. So if it's at a level high enough and 40% backing, and instead of making it redeemable to everyone like you and I, you show its immutability on the blockchain. And this is kind of what they're trying to do on a larger scale with Enbridge and with the unit
how do you
to show its
revalue
veracity. Well, I mean, might be some pushback, of course, but if we're willing to pay anyone who wants to sell us gold at 120,000 an ounce, isn't that what it really is at? I mean, to me, it is. How did Roosevelt do it in 33 when gold was $20 an ounce and then all of a sudden he devalued the dollar and now gold is $35 an ounce? That's a 40% revision. It is what it is. That's what we'll pay you for it. So if the central banks of the world have the ability to offload all of their gold to the Fed, and we'll pay them $1,200 or $1,300 or whatever the number is, or excuse me, 120,000, 130,000, 150,000, whatever it is, that is what it is. It's a new system. Who knows? Maybe no one. Maybe, I mean, any gold that is out there, the arbitrage would send it that way over time. And maybe it's a new system that the West is saying, look, here's our new system. It's pegged to gold. It will be immutable. It is. We will not denigrate the system the way that we've done before. You would get tons of arbitrage. You would have a lot of players that would send their gold just to make that spread, and it would just happen. And I think it would benefit all of the world's central banks to a degree. You're going to get inflation. You're going to get pushback. But nonetheless, I mean, I think it is highly probable. It is highly probable because immediately it offsets all of the balance sheets of all of the indebted countries. And if you realize that all of the central banks are buying gold and bringing it home, in one way or the other, it benefits all of them. So, look, it's a Hail Mary pass, but either that or inflate or default or go back to option 3 and just make everyone have no reason to hold our currency, to hold our treasuries and dump it and watch what happens. Either way, you're going to get to the same point. If you don't take care of this problem that is growing, either you inflate, you default, or option 3 and 4, find a villain, or just revalue gold. And I think they can do that. It's the least painful of all of the options. And, you know, if that's what they're willing to pay, anyone that's willing to sell us their gold, then that is what the price is.
I mean,
we're supposed to be number one at 8,300 metric tons. But guys like Alistair McLeod will tell you that he believes that China has 5 times that amount, over 40,000 metric tons that
Yeah.
they produce over, between 300 and 500 metric tons per year, every year, that they are the largest producers and accumulators on the planet, and not forthright about how much that they actually own. So again, who knows? Fort Knox hasn't been audited since, I think, 1953. But where did Saddam Hussein's gold go? Where did Gaddafi's gold go? Where did the 12 billion that the Ukraine sold to fund the war? Where did that go? Where is all of that gold? Why are we not open about it? Why isn't China open about it? And if you think about it, if indeed all of the nations knew that gold was going to be revalued, the last thing they would ever want to do is be candid about what they're buying and how much they buy. It's just like Saudi Arabia buying 160 metric tons and not acknowledging it until they were caught by the import-export numbers.
Right.
They're all doing this. It's China flying around Latin America and buying up doré and concentrate from the miners, as I've been told on multiple occasions from other mining executives, paying far more than the West will pay and bringing it home to refine it. Or the People's Liberation Army, when they buy it, it's not reported to the IMF the way it is when the PBOC buys it. There's a million ways around accumulating gold without being open about it. And I think that's indeed what they're all doing, because it doesn't behoove any of them to be open about it until they pull back the curtain and say, here's what we have. And so, look, a lot of this is supposition. I'll give you that. But a lot of it is also rooted in fact and common sense. And so if you want to fix a system that is broken, you can hyperinflate, you can default. Yeah. And if this is an option that allows them the least painful way out, which also benefits the new system, a much higher gold price pegged, to me, it just makes sense. So again, I guess over time will tell.
What kind of price would we be looking at here to fix all the issues?
100. I think the number was every $4,000 increase in the price of gold gives $1 trillion free and clear to the Treasury general account. And Janet Yellen wouldn't even need to get congressional approval to do this. She would just tell her buddy Jerome, jack up the price of gold. Here's what you're going to pay for it. And, so the math, I think it's about 130, 140,000, and you could offset your balance sheet, at least the 35 trillion. Now that we're not even talking about the unfunded liabilities, Medicare, Medicaid, government, military pensions, Social Security, but that's all owed to us. And if you go down a pathway of modern monetary theory, that's a whole different rabbit hole, but it's less a problem. More a problem if you want to retain the world reserve status. The only way that's ever going to happen is to have some form of a tether to the irresponsible fiscal policy that we continue to exhibit around the globe.
Now, you know about how gold could be used to transform the US financial system, but there's another piece of this puzzle you'll need to understand. Check out our next video to see how other global players might respond and the potential ripple effects on your wealth. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss any insights that could impact your financial future. Thanks for watching.